All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the 2026 CSC U Summit, our two-day online learning experience for emerging athletic communications professionals, young professionals, undergraduate and graduate students, interns, and anyone else curious about our field. This session will focus on developing your design toolkit and finding efficiencies as an athletic communicator. My name is Ashley Robbins. I am the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Creative Content at UMass Lowell. The 2026 CSC U Summit is presented by the CSC U Committee, and I'm excited to serve as today's moderator. Thank you to those of you who submitted questions during our registration. If you're watching live, you can submit additional questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I'm joined today by a group of industry professionals who are ready to share their career journeys and advice with all of you. To start us off, I'd like each panelist to introduce themselves and share a bit about how they use creative tools in their everyday role. So Maggie, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm Maggie. I am the Assistant Director of Athletic Communications at Bryn Mawr College outside of Philadelphia. I started at Bryn Mawr in 2024, and I mainly handle all of our creative content creation, social media for BMC Athletics, and any other sort of specific creative content that is requested throughout our department.
Awesome, thank you. Patrick, how about you?
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Ashley, thanks for serving as the moderator for this panel. Excited to be here. My name is Patrick Murphy. I am the Athletic Communications Coordinator here at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado, out here at the base of the Rocky Mountains. Going in my fourth year out here at Mines and wrapping up my 13th year overall in college athletics. Started as the student manager for the baseball team at my alma mater, Missouri S&T. Worked into the athletic communications office as a student worker. Was there for 6 years. Did a couple post-grad internships at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida, and Jacksonville University before returning to Missouri S&T as a full-time assistant, and then came out here to Mines, and now we're going on year 4 here. I'm also the chair of the CSC Creative and Digital Design Contest, and I'm a member of the Young Professionals Committee, and my duties out here at Mines include being the primary media relations contact for men's and women's soccer, men's basketball, softball, and I also help us look good on the internet with our creative efforts. So.
Awesome, thank you for being here. And Peyton, how about you?
Hey everybody, my name is Peyton. I'm the assistant AD for Multimedia at Trinity University in San Antonio. I got my start as a student worker at Olivet Nazarene University, working under Sam Vbrock, and then moved to East Texas Baptist University for a GA position, working with Adam Ledyard, where I started out doing live streaming and then moved into handling the majority of our creative responsibilities at ETBU. And now at Trinity, I oversee all content creation and curation for the athletic department, as well as social media management.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to get started talking about the tools and systems that help make creative happen every day and help it feel lighter and more efficient as we get more and more requests every single year. So let's get started. Peyton, with you first. What tools or platforms would you say are your old reliables in your creative toolkit? And what are some newer efficiencies that have made the biggest difference for you in your ability to design quickly and consistently?
Yes, I would say old reliable for me is Adobe, YouTube U for all creative stuff there. CapCut is something that we're kind of working in and out of, especially on your phone, whether it's, record a highlight on your phone and then screen record the play and then mash the two up on your phone in CapCut real quick. You have broadcast audio over a phone clip and you can throw that on social super easily. Another old reliable, honestly, Google Drive and keeping everything organized, like content calendar and all that stuff with Google Sheets and stuff like that. And then some newer stuff that we're trying to use. We have at Trinity, we use Sony A7 IVs and A9 IIIs. So they have a wireless transfer feature with the new mirrorless cameras. So being able to transfer photos wirelessly to a phone helps out a lot without, everyone has a different phone these days. So you don't need to keep a lightning adapter, a USB 3 adapter, like all that type of stuff. You can just use that wireless transfer system. And then another new piece of tech that we've been using a lot is the DJI Pocket 3. So that helps you get a ton of like super stable gimbal shots in a really, really small package. So it's been really useful for us.
Awesome. How about Maggie or Patrick? Any tips or tools that you love?
A big, like Peyton hit on a bunch of them, but I'm a big fan of the Adobe libraries. It really helps me stay organized when it comes to keeping track of assets, when it comes to anything creative, being able to organize those, share those within our office with each other. Google Drive, being able to have a place to store assets and files and everything else. Also sharing those as Adobe Cloud files, just making sure that we're maintaining the interconnectivity with our office. And then as far as anything new, personally, I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of the new Edits app from Instagram, because of the abilities that it has, just to enhance reels and be able to cut things together a little bit better on your phone, and also being able to export those and not have to deal with any of the compression issues that posting natively through Instagram on its own can create. That way, you're not losing any resolution with any video content or photo content that you may be trying to produce for that platform. Maggie?
Yeah, I would say similarly on Instagram, now that they have the captions feature as well, you can just upload, save your draft of the video with captions, edit them right in the Instagram app, which has been very useful to me. And similarly to what Peyton said, mirrorless cameras with the wireless transfer feature are really helpful when you have a big win or you have a big celebration at a conference event and you're there shooting, you're able to post something right away, get it right to your phone, get it up on socials.
Awesome. Thank you all. Yeah, it's just crazy how much that you can do right from your phone nowadays without needing a whole
Mhm.
setup. And the quality is still there. So as we talked about using your phone and all these new efficiencies, that has just made creative content expected at such a higher speed and volume now. So what would you say is one workflow hack, whether it's building templates or batching or scheduling or presets, that's kind of changed everything for you? And Maggie, we'll start with you with this one.
Yeah, I would say having some sort of platform that you're able to pre-schedule posts out. So I know Meta now has a feature that you can pre-schedule social media posts and it can post across Facebook and Instagram. We at Bryn Mawr use a service called Loomly, and it allows me to post across several different platforms that we have and keeps me ahead of schedule, especially when we have a busy week with a lot of home games. And I'm able to kind of schedule out player of the week graphics or, different awards that come up. And we, as athletic communicators, know when CSC academic awards are coming up. So I can plan that. I get the release early. I know who I've nominated, so I can create the graphic or create the post ahead of time. So that's one thing that's off my plate in the middle of that week. And another thing is creating templates for game day graphics or win graphics or milestone graphics during the summer and pre-planning, okay, during this week or during this season, I'm going to use this template for these teams. And that really saves time.
Yeah, building up assets and files and templates and everything else when you have the time, especially during the summer when things are a little bit slower, is a great way to get ahead for the year. I know out here at Mines, I head up creating our visual package every year, and the 3 full years that I've been out here, we've had a different visual look every year. And us being a STEM school, I try to find a different theme every year, whether it's, trying to play off our academics or our geography or anything else to try and give us a look for the year. So that when people see, they know, hey, this is a Minds graphic. So we'll go through and we'll build those out in advance. And I'll try to hit most of the big basic things when it comes to stuff. So game day graphics, score graphics, major awards, championships, layer of the week stuff. But then we'll also make sure that we compile all those assets and have a variety of different assets that we can use for different things when they come up. Just for example, today, right before this call, I was putting together a graphic for our softball team who currently leads the entire country in triples. I already had my filter presets for my photos, so all I had to do was just drag that over and add that. Once I got all my cutouts done, I have my textures that I have for my overlays, for my text, for the centerpiece and everything else, and then I have my background textures as well. And all I have to do is just drag those out of a library. And the most tedious thing is finding photos that fit the layout that I want and match the geometry correctly. But just being diligent with your time is the biggest thing, and knowing when you can do things and when you can't do things. Also, like Maggie mentioned, having the ability to use a social media manager program or being able to post, the Meta Business Suite with Facebook and Instagram. Unfortunately, TweetDeck went behind the paywall, so I don't necessarily know how many of us are using that anymore. But I think we're all definitely sad to see that one go. But just finding ways and resources to make your life easier and more manageable when you do have those high demand periods.
Mhm.
Peyton?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are saying it. Just being able to template everything out really helps. And then even like if you're really early in your career, don't be afraid to have your entire department have the exact same layout and the exact same graphics. You don't need to
Mhm.
make every team look unique from the jump. Like get your foothold at where you're at and then start branching out and be successful in that way. But like once you figure out the flow of your department, it's then you can start branching out your creativity. Like get everything uniform and have everything in a system. Then you can go out. And then like for us, we edit everything in Lightroom for photos. So like
Mhm.
having pre-made presets that
Mhm.
fit like, oh, this is what our gym look is. This is what our soccer field look is. This is
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm sure everyone has horrible lights at their soccer and football fields. We do for sure. So like I have like presets built out so that way I can send like sample photos to my students of, hey, this is what I kind of am looking for from these, but try to get
Mhm.
as close as you can. They don't have to be like exact or whatever. So being
Mhm.
able to get stuff like that of looks for people to try to imitate helps out a lot. And then
Mhm.
as far as building asset libraries, like what Patrick was saying, like using Envato, using even Pinterest, you can download paper, cloth, denim, like whatever textures
Mhm.
you want. They have free high quality images of
Mhm.
those on Pinterest. So like like it does take some time during the summer a little bit, but knowing
Mhm.
kind of like everyone else has been saying, template your stuff out
And
can help out
one
a
thing
lot.
I would add to that is if you do have student workers or students who are kind of maintaining their team's social media presence and they're not Adobe users or Adobe is kind of scary to them, Canva, if you get Canva Pro or you have access or your students have access to Canva
Mhm.
Pro, they can upload like your branding, your fonts, your colors,
Mhm.
textures. They can upload all of that and use that in their graphics if you don't necessarily have time to create each team's game day graphics
Mhm.
or anything that maybe is out of your purview for that day.
Yeah, and the same can be said for any other number of design services out there. We have sideline design out here at Mines for coaches and staff that want to help do a little bit more to supplant what we do when it comes to social media content. But box out, score shots, Gipper, again, all the same. You can upload your assets to also help ensure brand continuity and ensure a consistent look, no matter who's making what or who's posting what.
Thank you all. That is super important. And thank you, Maggie, for bringing up Canva because we definitely got some questions about that. And I think that that is super important to point out, especially when we're talking about, how do you handle and juggle when, you have all these requests coming in and how can you be more efficient? And I think a lot of it comes down to making good choices of what deserves more time, whether it's a video or a graphic of this really has to be produced. This we're going to do in Premiere. We're going to do sit down interviews. We're going to do this or this we're going to do on our phone and we're going to use edits or on the graphic side, this we really need to do in Photoshop or this we're going to have a set template in Canva for this event that when this happens and so I can just quickly release this from my phone post game. So I think those small choices and planning ahead really help you be efficient come the moment. And just like all of you were talking about, really utilizing the summer to build up all of those assets so that when you're in the moment, your life is just 10 times easier. So thank you all for that. Just kind of moving on from there. So we know that these tools all help us survive the busy times, but the slower times are where we learn and we grow and we do these things. So all of you, starting with you, Patrick, what resources like tutorials or creators or workshops, what really helped you get your start in this field, in the creative space, and what also then resources helped you level up?
Well, starting kind of following back to what Maggie said about Photoshop being scary and Adobe being scary, I ran my team, my social media for our baseball team when I was in college, and I used like a light tablet version of Photoshop. But I said, oh, I'll learn real Photoshop later, and later never came until I was working as an intern at Emory Riddle, and I was like, well, we're here now. We're going to figure this out. But a lot of what I learned and how I learned, I'm sure like many folks in the industry and a lot of people that are watching, it's a lot of being self-taught, seeing different things on the internet. When it comes to graphics or print or anything else, and saying, "Wow, that looks really cool. I wonder if I can replicate how they did that." And so it's just a lot of experimentation and trial and error, um, asking other people for help. I know my first job, one of our marketing interns whom I shared an office with was really, really good at Photoshop, and she was really instrumental in helping me understand layering and composition and everything else, and really kind of helped me understand the ins and outs of something that I said, I'll learn it later. I'll learn it later. It's like, well, later is now. Um, so the sooner you can start learning how to do that and everything else, the better it is. But then also, the internet has tons and tons and tons of assets. YouTube University is something that I think everybody on this call swears by, and plenty of folks in the industry all swear by. There's so many creators out there that cover anything and everything you could possibly want to know, find out, and even things you didn't want to know or find out. But now that you know, you're like, hey, I'm really happy I know this. Just if you're trying to accomplish a certain effect, just type it into Google, and the majority of the time you'll come up with at least a dozen different videos from a dozen different platforms showing you, a half a dozen different ways to get to the same destination. And just figuring out which of those ways works the best for you. Peyton, I know in our prep call you had talked a lot about YouTube University, being a fan of that, and you having several specific channels that you followed and really helped you as a creative.
Yeah, I honestly, when I was starting to get into photography and graphic design, Peter McKinnon and sports Photoshop tutorials are the two main accounts that I really dove into, along with more recently Mark Denny. B&H has their own YouTube channel called B&H Photo Video Pro Audio, where they do breakdowns of products that you can get, but also like editing skills that you can start doing. And then Jared Poland is another photography account that I have started more recently getting into. I mean, the best part about YouTube is with Photoshop edits and all that is the thumbnail is the end graphic. So if you're looking for something you want to try to make, once you see your thumbnail that you think looks cool, watch the video. And then if you're looking for ways to implement that into the design, usually you can keep those assets and color correct them or whatever you need to fit the branding of your university. But yeah, I think YouTube U also mimicking other creatives, and Patrick brought this up in our call. If you just DM someone, hey, I really like this effect in this video, on this photo, on this graphic, most of us are more than willing to talk to you about what like they did in that piece of content. So being able to DM and ask questions definitely helps. And then trying to imitation is key. So find someone who you really, really like and just try to make what they make. And if you can't figure it out, ask them how they did it. There's a guy named CJ Holleron. He's with UCF now, and I try to imitate him as much as possible as with a lot of the stuff that he does. Maggie, if you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you guys covered it. YouTube U, it is the best place to find stuff. And you can look up anything within this field, within this realm, and find what you are looking for. And I will echo what Patrick said about using the resources around you as well. I'm a photographer at heart, but I've had to produce a lot more video content, and I did not know how to use Premiere Pro. And so I reached out to Bryn Mawr College's Office of Marketing and Communications, and their videographer spent an hour, 2 hours with me just teaching me the basics. And so you don't know who in your community could be a resource to you until you ask.
Yeah, I definitely think that is all good advice, especially on the community point. Like everybody was saying, reach out to people. We are more than not, I would say 99% of the time, you're going to get somebody who wants to teach the next generation and pitch in and help you learn something. I know I've had people reach out to me and ask for a template. I've had my interns in my office ask for a template that I'm creating with Photoshop. And that's something that we do a lot here is like, yeah, we'll create the templates, but then we give our interns and our students the opportunity to use those templates and manipulate them. And so then they're seeing how we layer things. They're seeing, what assets we're using and what effects we're using. And then they can run with their creativity creativity from there. So sometimes I think starting with a template when you're starting out is a really good way to like learn and pivot and grow from that, and just get comfortable with the program in general. So that's kind of, all great ways that you guys have started out. So now that you're all, expert creatives, how would you, or what would you say is a skill that you kind of picked up recently that has made your work more easy or more fun?
Hmm. It's a great question. It's a deep question. You're gonna have to think on that one there, Ashley. I think you're
A new
just
skill
dropping
to
that one on
learn.
us.
Or I guess, how do you keep growing creatively throughout the year, I guess, and not just get stuck, especially when times are um, busy.
I've got an answer for you,
Yeah.
Ashley. I
Okay.
I also, like Patrick, was like, wow, that's a really good question. Um, I think like most of us in this industry, we rely on students. And I think when I'm kind of feeling like I'm in a rut or I'm trying to come up with a new idea, just talking with my students and
Mm,
my student workers who come in for office hours, or my office is in the gym right by where all the student athletes do rehab. And so they come in and they're talking about something silly or a trend, and it reignites my creative passion of like, oh, okay, they're interested in this. Let's roll with it.
mm. Yeah, no, I think for me, it's just taking time every week, every couple of weeks to like be intentional and carve out a block of time where I can have like I can go out to a practice or I can go to a game if we're playing locally. Fortunately, a quarter of our conference is in the greater Denver metro area, so that's nice. But just finding the time to go out and try new things. That was the biggest thing because I'm an SID by trade. I came up under the tutelage of Hall of Famer John Keane at Missouri S&T and plenty of other great SIDs, but I had to learn how to do all the creative stuff. I can do stats and write a recap in my sleep, but learning how to do the design bit, and then now since I've been at Mines, really finally being somewhere long enough that I can start dipping my toe into doing video stuff. It's just taking the time and being deliberate with how I plan my days, my weeks, talking with, coaches and figuring out when their schedules are, so that I can plan opportunities for myself to go out and do things, to create content and, you know, keep our student athletes and our audiences engaged that way.
I think for me to kind of echo Maggie, like looking into or leaning into your student workers and your students in
Hmm.
general. And like I'm super blessed at Trinity. We have almost 60 student workers on staff. So I have 7 or 8 videographers, for instance. And so listening to them and the stuff that they're trying to grow in is like, okay, well, I have to be better than you at that. So like sound design is something that I've been trying to get a lot more into. And then with like just layering of that, and then also I have to learn After Effects now. So kind of dreading that, but also looking forward to the fun and the challenge of taking on one of the more heavy hitting Adobe products. So I think having students who want to push to grow themselves that also pushes you is something that's really cool that
Hmm.
has helped me.
Mhm.
And then for like photography stuff, I was in a rut last year creatively, and I was like, okay, I need to capture at least 10 images from every event I shoot that I am proud of and want to post online. And so forcing myself
Hmm.
to find content within a game or a tennis match or whatever, and trying to like push myself to find 10 images that I thought
Hmm.
were enough quality to represent me on social media was something that helped me get out of that rut and push me to expand my photography skill set and creative abilities.
Hmm.
I love that, setting goals for yourself creatively, because I feel like it is so easy to get stuck in a rut. I think, especially from our side, I think, there wasn't so much of a push creatively, a few years back. So in our office, we were always so like sparked about like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. We had time to do it because it was new, and like not everybody was like pushing us to do it all the time. So we had time, I feel like, to investigate more, and try more on our own without that pressure. And now it's just they want so much baseline that I feel like there's
Hmm.
less time to kind of try different things. So I love that idea, Peyton, of
Mm.
setting different goals for yourself to still push that spark, because I feel like as creatives, what keeps us going in this field is like finding the
hmm
joy in it, and
Mhm.
like you got to find the joy to be
hmm
creative.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I can 100% attest to that. This basketball season, I was chasing one specific shot, and I only really get to shoot 3 games a year, six if I go to our double headers because we men and women play on the same night. But I'm chasing a singular shot from our men's basketball team, and it's a dunk photo. Um, just being able to capture the whole sequence start to finish, and it took me to the our last regular season game for me to finally get that. And it was the last chance I was going to get to shoot that year. And I happened to be positioned correctly. I had enough depth of field. And like Peyton said, that's probably one of my shots of the year, and one that I am 100% proud to slap my name on and hit post when it comes to social media.
Thank you. And just another reminder that the Q&A is open. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in there. And in the meantime, I think this is great. We've been talking about learning the new skills and pushing yourself creatively. And that leads us into our next topic that we're going to talk about is the trends. And we've talked about staying curious and being creative. And I think trends is doing just that. So Peyton, if you could kick us off, how do you spot trends that might be worth trying for your university?
Yeah. So I love trying to figure out how we can integrate whatever's happening in culture into our content. Whenever I don't even know what the album cover or the piece of content was, but whatever Taylor Swift posted with the orange glittery graphic with something on it, we posted that, and Taylor Swift has not accepted our collaboration invite to this day. So I'm a little upset about that, but she has a PR team that's pretty locked in, I'm assuming. But no, I think being able to find like low hanging fruit in pop culture, in social interaction, whatever that's happening at this time. Back a couple years ago when I was in grad school, the Almost Friday trend was going around, and our baseball team is the who I was in charge of for content. So we started doing Almost Game Day, and we started doing that from the like I think we did it for our home opener, Almost Game Day. And it was really cool because as the season progressed, like the A's and the Rangers and some of these bigger professional teams started posting Almost Game Days, and our baseball players would like send the post to me and be like, Peyton, you did it first. Like we did it first. We were the first ones to do this Almost Game Day. So that was super cool to like be on top of. And then Tennessee football posted the like brain rot edits for the first time, and that blew up. And so then incorporating that into our baseball team and just trying to figure out like what is some trendy stuff that's low hanging, that's easy to do, or even if there's creatives that are doing content in the space of the teams that you are doing. Like there's so many people who do basketball content right now that you can easily do like a one-off of them and just swing at the fences. And if it doesn't hit, that doesn't mean it's a failure, because you still learned how to edit something new, and you like learned, okay, this might not necessarily be something that our audience enjoys, but if our student athletes enjoy it, that's a way that we can showcase them. And at the end of the day, we're showcasing these student athletes, and those are the people who we need to try to be, making happy with the content at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what,
hmm
in my opinion, at Trinity, we recognize our primary target audience is our current athletes and our future athletes. So we don't care what
hmm
alumni thinks, we don't care what parents think, we don't care what anyone else except for our current and future athletes think. So that's how we kind of
hmm
also take that into consideration when recognizing trends in content.
I think
I
another
think,
bit. I think
go ahead, Patrick. Go
I
ahead.
think another big part of that too is just getting to know what kind of people your student athletes are. Obviously, out here at Mines, we kind of have a bit of a niche demographic. A lot of high academic kids that are wired a little bit differently and have a little bit different senses of humor. But again, it's just kind of understanding the kind of content they enjoy doing. I know we question of the days are kind of our, I don't want to say our bread and butter piece out here, but you get some really spirited discussions when you got a bunch of nerds talking about what color folder math is supposed to be. Um, or what color Gatorade is the best, or what their favorite school subject is. I did that video with our men's soccer team this year, and it got picked up in the algorithm, and it did absolutely crazy numbers this year, in the five figures worth of views. So several thousand, which was pretty cool, and being able to do that. But just being aware of what your student athletes want to see and what they want to be a part of, like Peyton was saying. Maggie?
Yeah. The only thing I would add is also sometimes the general vibe is different for each team. So understanding because, you see the students in and out of your office or in and out of the gym, like understanding that the lacrosse team may not feel the same way as the field hockey team, or at a women's college like Bryn Mawr, like our lacrosse players are really spirited and love to have fun. And like their whole social media presence is about fun, that they're the most fun team in D3. And so like understanding that that's what their audience wants to see and that's what they want to see as student athletes, it helps me on our main feed kind of represent them in the way that they see themselves.
I think all of you touched on, I think it's so important to just bring up how important understanding your audience is. I think it's our job too to kind of educate our administration in our role as experts in our field. I think a lot of times we'll post stuff. A hockey schedule release video for us last year comes to mind. Got huge engagement on it, really hit with who we describe our audience to be. Our coach and our AD did not get it and did not like it. So I think it's our job to really get everybody on the same page of understanding of why we're doing social and what we're looking to do. We're looking to recruit, we're looking to retain. And I think that those are the audiences that here we're looking to go for. So it's our job to educate our administration or our coaches or whoever it's not hitting on, that that's our audience and that's our job. So I think that's kind of something good to keep in mind for younger people in the audience, when you're in those positions to kind of really think about who your audience is, with these social platforms and with these trends, and who you're trying to really engage with. Um, Maggie, just going back to you. So if you could expand on that a little bit, kind of a little bit more on deciding, whether a trend or something on social, a graphic, a video, something, whether it fits your brand or your sport, how do you decide?
Yeah, I think it's in those conversations with coaches, it's in those conversations with your student athletes, in the time that you do have in the summer and forming relationships with people within the department. And you begin to understand what they want to see, but also how does it match the brand that I'm putting out to my audience. And it's not something you're going to get right away. It's a process. And like we've all said, you may try something and it might flop.
Mhm.
And you're like, okay, my audience does not want to see a question of the day. It might work at Colorado Mines, but it might not work at Bryn Mawr.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of, it's discretion. It's like, I'm going to try this. If I don't see the analytics are matching up with what I thought it was going to be, okay, then how do I pivot? The next time, I put out this long form content that I spent a ton of time on and it didn't get the views that I was expecting it to. But the short 30-second reel that the soccer team posted at an away game with their first years and their seniors got, 40,000 views. So maybe I need to shift more so towards the fun short form content.
A lot of trial and error. Along the same
Yeah.
lines, we got a question from the audience. What are your thoughts on stealing content? Do creative minds even consider it stealing or just inspiration? Patrick, we'll go to you.
Stealing's a tricky word in dealing with this situation, because especially in sports, because a lot of us are all out here trying to do the same thing. We're just taking different routes to get it. Um, Taking inspiration, I think, is one way to go about doing this, but deliberately copying stuff form for form, or literally just swapping their stuff for your stuff, I think is where it starts to get a little dicey and a little bit tricky. Um, be it video or graphic, or even how photo to some extent photography, but especially in photo and video, it's perfectly fine to take, see something cool from somebody else and be like, oh wow, I really like that, but then don't be black and white and just, copy paste it, switch your colors, your logos, and everything else. Take that inspiration from there and put your own spin on it, stylize it a little bit differently, tweak your filters, change your layups, adjust your compositions and everything else. I know personally I've run into this issue. When I was one of the times I was switching jobs, I literally took the graphics package from school A with me to school B, reskinned it, and after about 2 weeks, I finally got called out on it. And I was like, I know I'm in the wrong. This is on me. Situationally at the time, I thought this was what was going to be the best course of action for me, but I know that I shouldn't have done this, and I apologize to my former colleague who was the designer at my previous institution, and went about, just carved out a week and said, all right, I'm here at school B. I'm going to do my own thing, and we went in a different direction there. So don't do what I did. Or if you do, be more discreet about it than I did. I'm not advocating for that one way or the other, but definitely noting the difference between inspiration and plagiarism. So, Maggie, Peyton, you guys got anything you want to add on that bit?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Patrick. I think, yeah, just it is kind of a fine line, inspiration and plagiarism, but I mean, as long as you're not, I'm a firm believer in the saying that there is no such thing as brand new content. Everything is in some way or shape or form inspired by something else.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Totally.
And I think, again, a lot of that goes to, we're being asked to deliver so much and trying to do so much at a quicker pace. So, how do you draw the line when you are being asked to deliver too much? Where is that line for too much content for your teams or department?
I'd say it's always a good question, and it's for young professionals. It's a really important one. I know when everybody's getting established, and personally speaking, I was this way. I was a yes man for the first several years of my career, and eventually it got to the point where my phone would go off at 9 o'clock at night, and it could have been completely unrelated to work. It's just the fact that my phone went off. I was dreading looking at it because I was afraid it was a coach asking me for a birthday graphic or XYZ or ABC. And I just didn't want to look at it because I had put myself in a situation that I was too accommodating. And the biggest thing is being able to set boundaries and communicate your vision for your brand and what your capabilities and capacities are. My first year out of school, probably the trickiest thing I had to do was deal with my softball team, who was the coaching staff was two SEC All-Americans in a previous life, and they were expecting SEC caliber content from a first year guy out of school who didn't even know how to use Photoshop. So just being able to set expectations and understand your limitations and talking just about what's reasonable. Everybody at the end of the day, there's only a finite amount of time in each day, and you can't spend every waking minute, every waking hour making content, especially if you're like most of us, where you do have other things to do, like statting games, writing recaps, writing bios, everything else. Um, and yeah, setting those boundaries is such a huge thing. And it took me forever to learn that. And as a self-professed workaholic, it's been something I've been working on getting better about. Of when I leave my office and I get in my car and I go home, I've got an hour to decompress, and by the time I get home, I'm done. I mean, if it's a little bit different if we're on the road that night and I got to cover a basketball game from home, but even then, like I'm not stressed out about it. I'm not worried about it. Um, I have those boundaries, and I know when things are done, I can shut it off and go watch a movie, and I don't have to worry about situations like the same situations I put myself in earlier in my career reoccurring now. So,
Yeah, I would echo that. And I think it's important to remember, and I try and remind myself this. We're in college athletics because it's fun and we enjoyed being a part of that
mm,
earlier in our career. And nothing that we do is life or death. If I don't get that graphic up right this second when you email me, when you text me, nobody's going to be hurt. Nobody's injured. Nothing, the world is not going to explode. Um, and we are human beings. And so we need to take a minute to breathe, to get a break. Um, and social media is still going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the day
mm,
after that. And that content, if it doesn't come out today and it comes out tomorrow, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think like second everything y'all have said. And then setting yourself up for success from the beginning by defining what you will provide to coaches and what you won't provide. Like at Trinity, we say, hey, we'll give you game day graphic, win graphic, schedule, player of the week, and a media day. And that is all we are guaranteeing. Anything else is considered a special request. So like being able to set yourself up in a way where you understand what your obligations are and coaches understand what your obligations are. So that way any special request type graphic can be made like a week or so in advance. So that way you're not bombarded with, oh, I have all these extra requests. It's no, this is outside the scope of what I told you I would provide. And you need to do what we agreed on in the request process.
I think that that is so important, really communicating up front. And so everybody knows what the expectations are and everything that, and also just letting them know kind of everything that you do too, right? Not even just the creative part. Cause I think sometimes we're all doing a lot of that. You know, some of the bigger schools definitely have people who only do creative. We do not here. I don't think you guys do either. So, really just educating everyone. I feel like we do a lot of education in our side of what we do and all the different things that we do. So educating them on everything that you're doing and kind of setting up those expectations, Peyton, I think, like you said, is super important. And then along the same lines of just, again, always getting asked to be more efficient and to do more. AI, of course, always comes into the conversation. Now, we got a question in the chat. Are there any good ways to utilize AI in creative spaces without coming across as lazy to the audience?
I think generative fill in Photoshop is the way that I try to use it. In our pre-talk for this panel, Patrick mentioned that, if you have a photo that's taken horizontally and your template requires it to be vertical, guess what? You got generative AI, generative fill, throw that thing on there. And then like Lightroom has generative remove for distractions, and Premiere has generative extend for video now and audio. They have like AI remix tools. So if your song's too long and you want it to have the natural ending, you can AI remix it. So I think if it's for like the details, I guess I would say, of the graphic and not like, oh, hey, AI, make this whole entire thing for me. That's where I would say go with it. But we don't use a ton of AI outside of the Adobe suite. If Patrick or Maggie, if y'all have any other thing.
No, generative fill in Photoshop's been the biggest one that we use, and that's about really the extent that we use it. I would love to try and use some of the generative extend in Premiere Pro, but apparently our subscription or our account doesn't. I mean, the button's there, but if I click on it, I get an angry message telling me, no, 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 you can't do that. So, but again, I think it also the use of AI, I think it just depends on what the philosophy of your department is. I know there's plenty of places that are just out there trying to, post for the sake of posting, and it's, they want to try and get it, be present so much so often, and you can't ask a human to reasonably create that amount of content. So some places will use AI more than others. Predominantly maybe in like different promotional graphics and everything else. And they'll use AI to produce a base for that, but then they'll take what AI spits out, drop it into Photoshop, add a couple branding things here and there, and then hit send. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do it, but those places have different approaches than everywhere else, and I think a lot of it just depends on your approach and your philosophy and where you're trying to go when it comes to your social media program.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. These guys got it.
Same thing with us. Like I don't, but outside of Photoshop, I don't really think we use it much other than on the back side, once your creative is created by a human being. I've used it before for like reel hooks or caption ideas, different things just to kind of expand my creativity that way when it comes to the posting part, but not necessarily the creative part.
I forgot. We have a couple graphics that we posted that are AI where it's like we beat Southwestern University 3 times in one day across 3 different sports. So I went into ChatGPT and was like, hey, make me a graphic of tigers on a pirate ship. Because it was like, that is a composition that would probably take me 30 hours to make, and by the time we get to it, it's over. So like, but I put it at the very end of our photo carousel. So in order to even see it, you had to swipe all the way through.
Hmm.
Or like same kind of thing where we beat uh Center College and they're the Colonels. So I did make me a cartoon of a tiger eating popcorn because they call themselves the Kerns. So it was like goofy stuff, goofy one-off stuff like that, I think
Hmm.
is okay for AI. I don't in any way encourage you to put that as the headliner photo for your carousel. If you're going to do that, throw it at the end and kind of like let it live there. But I think if you're, I'm all for throwing shade at other schools after you've beaten them. So whatever your university policy is on that, play into that policy. But we'll use AI images to, throw some smoke when we can, throw some shade when we can.
Awesome. Going back to the chat as we have a few minutes left, for someone just starting out as a first ever SID, how do you kind of balance developing or using templates that are downloaded and developing your own look? Like, how do you balance the two of those?
I think when I first started out, I was using Canva templates as a student worker. And from there, I was like, I don't really like how these look. And unfortunately, we're so busy during the school year. And like you said, Ashley, we're not just creating creative content all day, every day. We just don't have that luxury. We're balancing a million and one things. But taking the time on your own, and it can be fun, like it can just be a time for you to have fun and play around.
Hmm.
Take that template and mess around with the different layers. Warp this, use a different
Hmm.
font and try and warp the letters so that it looks slightly different. Put in some photos of your student athletes to try and get a feel of what you as a creative feel passionate about.
Hmm.
Um, and then it kind of helps you build, okay, I can put my own creative flair into this while also sticking to the brand that I'm trying to
Hmm.
push.
Yeah, I'd say just evaluate what worked and what didn't work in year one, and take what did work and bring it with you into year two. And kind of what I was mentioning earlier with trying to find a theme from your geography or your university. Playing in the mountains or doing a topographical map or in our case circuit boards or anything kind of mechanical like gears or anything else. Um, you know, make something that's fun but also is distinctly you, and add that to your brand toolkit moving ahead.
Yeah, Patrick, I think that's so important. We do that. So I've been here 12 years now, 13 years, something like that. And every year in the summer, when we go to set our theme for the new year, we still sit down and we brainstorm words, things about our university, things about our location, like actual things that we can use as assets, but also like feeling words like gritty and blue collar, like things that our university, our student body, our student athletes resonate with. So I think that no matter how long you've been there, no matter how many assets you have, like whether you have none or you have 100, I think that brainstorming session every year is super important I feel like that's where the assets are begun to develop is really brainstorming about, like Patrick said, your location, your university, and then words and feelings, I think are really important. Um, Back to the chat for some questions. I would say let's go to this one. As a student trying to break into sports, what do you think matters most right now? Portfolios, connections, or consistency?
Yes. Um, for me, networking was such a huge part of it. When I was in college, YP Sports Chat on Twitter was a big thing, and that was how I grew the vast majority of my network. I know that account isn't necessarily as active anymore, but they used to do weekly sports chats for young professionals, and that's how I got to network with a bunch of people who weren't just SIDs, but also like marketing, ticketing, facilities, and everything else. And some of those people that I met through that chat are some of my best friends to this day. We're even in a fantasy football league together, which I am yet to win, despite being the best team in the regular season like 3 out of 6 years, which is kind of annoying. But I digress. Networking as a young creative, having a place to showcase your work, having a portfolio somewhere, Behance, Adobe Spark, Gondola is a great one. That one also helps you track with analytics and everything else. But just having a place where you can showcase your work, you can link to when you're applying for jobs, include it in your resume, include it in supplemental materials, uh, and then just consistency, showing up every day, putting forth your best effort every day, have a willingness to learn, a willingness to make mistakes and learn from them and understand why you made mistakes. Um, you know, all of us want to try and be perfect at what we do, but that's not a realistic goal and that's not attainable. Um, but just being the best that you can be every day will help you get more comfortable in this line of work in this industry and open the doors for you moving ahead.
Yeah, I
Peyton,
think
go ahead, Peyton.
I have the job at Trinity because of consistency and pushing myself, a connection I made at CSC, and then the portfolio that I had when I made that connection. So, like Patrick said, yes,
Maggie,
unfortunately.
Maggie, as the photographer, I'm going to go to you with this
Sure.
next question. If you post a series of action photos on social from your student workers, do you give them credit in the captions or tag them or collaborate with them?
Always. I had the privilege while I was a undergrad at Oberlin College to be the intern in the athletic communications office and photographed so many events and was always tagged. And so when I started at Bryn Mawr, if my student worker who's a photographer has an account on social media, that account is always tagged and or collaborated with. Um, and if they don't, then their name and their year in school is in the caption. I think it's a great way to highlight our students, and it's a great way for them to grow their own photography skills and to have more people viewing it and say, oh, that's this person's work. I can go look at their page and see what they've been posting. And it's a great way to track growth as well if you're posting on social media. I have a photography page, and all of my stuff from when I started and grabbed a camera at age 16 is still up. Because I love to be able to look back and say, oh, like I thought that was good when I was 16, but look how much I've grown. And I'm able to show
Mhm.
students that and say, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's a process. So,
Mhm.
Credit your photographers.
mhm,
Encourage them to make their own media accounts if they don't already.
yes.
And then lastly, I think this is a great one to wrap it up with from Ethan. Adobe can be a lot, as you've all, I'm sure, experienced over your years in the profession. Any tips for slowing it down and how to take it bit by bit?
Don't try to learn it all at once. Pick one, start with one or start with the one you feel like you're going to be the most comfortable with. Get good at that and then move on to the next one. I know Peyton
Mhm.
said he's getting ready to start dipping his toe into the waters of After Effects. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole right now. I feel like I'm really good in Photoshop right now, and I'm getting good finally in Premiere Pro. Um, you know, Same thing with InDesign. I got no InDesign like the back of my hand, but no, start with what you're comfortable with and go from there.
Any final thoughts, Maggie or Peyton?
No, I think Patrick got it.
I think imitation, find someone who you think is really good and just try to make what they make.
Well, thank you so much, Maggie, Patrick, and Peyton, for joining us and sharing your advice for students interested in pursuing athletic communications. We truly appreciate your continued support of college sports communicators. I think this was a great way to start the next generation in their creative toolkit and give them some advice on where to head on their path. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone who joined and submitted questions today. Hopefully, you found this really insightful. Please take a moment to complete our brief post-webinar survey to help us improve future programming. Thanks again for being with us today.